Morning.
Morning.
I'm calling to order this meeting of the Metropolitan Planning Organization Board of Directors. Would you please stand at this time for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Here.
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 Thank you. Next item is public comments on the consent agenda. Any public comments on the consent agenda? Hearing none, we will move to the consent agenda.
Don't move to accept.
Second. Laura Carr.
Any discussion on the consent agenda? Seeing none, any objection to passing the consent agenda? Seeing none, the motion is approved. We will take public comments on each public hearing item and on each new business item. So moving to public hearing items, agenda item 4 is approving an amendment to the fiscal year 24-25 and fiscal year 28-29 Transportation Improvement Program. Don?
So this is an amendment to add a design phase for the Fowler Street and Carroll Road Safety Project. This is being done as the City of Fort Myers is going to use FDOT's consultant. So they add a new project number for that. I got one little addition to there in the page. I added another reference on there for, we used to say just go with the money, which is the first one, but I also put in goals and objectives, which have the safety referenced in there as well. That's for Tallahassee, and we're seeking approval of this item. This is a public hearing item if anybody has any comments. Okay.
Motion to approve.
Any questions or discussion at the board? Seeing none, any
Motion to
comments on
approve.
this item?
Laura.
Okay, we have a motion.
Mr.
Second.
Chair, may I just ask one thing? You know, when I was reading it, I was saying, well, why is it, I think it's page, I don't know, 38 or something, that all of a sudden the last phase goes up, but the dashes don't kind of go all the way over? So all of a sudden, I was thinking, $80,000 goes to $174,000, you know, and then there's a different, so it's just sort of a, when I looked at it in the sunlight, I realized that, but there are a couple where, I know, when I did the math, I realized what the issue was, but in our paperwork, I'm just saying.
Any additional questions or comments? Any public comments on the motion? Seeing none, would you call the vote, please?
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, Calandra. Next item is agenda item 5, approving amendments and modification to the Unified Planning Work Program.
So this is the amendment to our budget, essentially over the 2 years. I'm not changing the overall amount of what we get in planning funds, but addressing some of the issues where we have some consultants that have started earlier than we thought and some that are later, and try to balance the money between the 2 years. But the addition that is actual amendment as well of money is discussing this with Leetran. We're adding FTA 5307 funding to the 2 years so they can address some planning tasks with that money. It needed to be included within our budget. It used to be in there, and then there was a discussion of why is it in there, and then FTA's raised with them, well, if you want to use it for that, you need to add it back in. So we're adding $400,000 over 2 years as part of this process to address that as well.
Any questions or comments at the board level?
Motion to approve? Oh,
Is there a second?
second.
Any public comments on this agenda item? Seeing none, any further discussion at the board? This requires a roll call vote. Calandra?
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. New business item 6, reviewing and approving the SS4A Safety Action Plan. Director
So yeah,
Scott.
we're seeking approval of Safe Streets for All action plan, but first we wanted to bring up FDOT. They also did an action plan earlier. We wanted to give them a little time before we get into ours. You saw the draft last month. This is the final, and we're trying to get this finalized because the grant cycle closes on June 26th, and we'll need approval for the local jurisdictions to go after whatever projects they can. So I think Keith is coming up to present on FDOT's part.
Good morning.
Morning. I'm Keith Robbins, the District Safety Administration for District 1 and FDOT, and I appreciate the opportunity to come and talk to you this morning about our campaign in promoting a traffic safety culture. Don was right. We did a safety action plan based on the SS4A eligibility criteria last year for Lee County on the state system roadways. We provided that plan in its entirety to the MPO staff so they could incorporate that into their comprehensive plan that they'll be briefing you on in a little bit. So I'm going to touch very briefly on that in here, but I wanted to talk to you a little bit more today about what we're trying to do with safety culture. We asked a question about this on our website. What concerns you most while driving? And 74% of respondents said other drivers. So this points to a behavior issue, not necessarily an engineering issue. And we're not discounting that there are engineering things out there that we need to address. But more importantly, it really is the behavioral aspect. This shows you some information on what impacts traffic safety has on society. Numbers there that should jump out to you are that more than 38,000 people were killed last year in the United States in road crashes. That's twice the rate of other high-income countries. And it's nearly $1 trillion in economic and societal impact due to these crashes. So given this significance, this really should be a national public health priority, and that's what we're going to talk about a little bit. So how do behavior choices affect us? Most of these things up here people understand. You see it every day. But the one that I really wanted to highlight to you is in the bottom right there, disregard for laws. We see people just blatantly going through red lights, turning where it says no turn. Right here in Lee County, if you've been watching the news, the people out on 82 and a recent safety project that we have in place where we've blocked off medians, put delineators out there, signed it, and people are deliberately turning left against the sign, going against traffic to go through a closed off median. Now, you've seen the news that we're taking extra steps to increase those delineators to really make it harder for them to do this. But where does this behavior come from? It's just mind-boggling at times. So where does behavior come from? It comes from the society. Societal environment, the social environment, groups of shared thought that where they live. It all drives your willingness or your intention to do something. And I'm not saying that everybody in Lee County in Florida is nuts, but this is something that we see just worldwide. And you look at the behavior from nationally since COVID. During COVID, numbers of crashes went down, but the severity of crashes went up. Why? Because people were speeding at much higher rates on the roadways because there were fewer people on the roadways. And the higher you go, the worse the severity of the crash. But what we've seen is since then is that behavior has not changed, even though there's just as many, if not more, people on the roadways. So how do we do this? We look at a traffic safety culture. And what is that? It's a shared belief system that people can influence other road user behaviors and stakeholder actions that impact traffic safety. So thinking about, what kids do in school or on a sports team, now let's apply that on the roadways. So looking at it that it's a public health issue, behavior influences or is influenced by beliefs, and we develop our beliefs in a lot of different ways. We talked about what a traffic safety culture is. So what are some strategies that we can use to impact this behavior? Positive traffic safety culture strategies recognize traffic can be improved by growing beliefs and increasing protective behaviors rather than focusing only on reducing risky behaviors. So it's not just more enforcement is going to solve the problem. Okay, it's starting before that. The safe system approach by Federal Highway that we use in a lot of our action plans recognizes that humans make mistakes. So let's start there. Let's try and change that behavior before they get out on the road. They're proactive by encouraging people to take safe behaviors and encouraging others to do the same. They're different than traditional approaches in many ways because they can make us more effective in reaching our target zero goal. So what do we do for this? The first is you have to create a shared understanding about traffic safety culture. Ask these questions, and I'm giving you these questions, and you've got this presentation on record to please take this back to your homes, your schools, your businesses, your other organizations, because all of these can be asked across the board, no matter who you are or where you are. This is not an FDOT alone thing to do. This takes collaboration and partnerships to do. So we have to understand where we're coming from and how do we get there and how are we being affected. Examine our own culture before trying to change that of everybody else. You know, those who live in glass houses shouldn't throw stones. So this is where we need to look. Look at how we can start that from the beginning. Find opportunities to formally adopt traffic safety culture as an approach to your traffic safety goals. This is something that can be embedded in your safety action plans at all levels. So this is critically important. Now, how are we looking at this in District 1? We're in the process of building a safety strategic plan, and it's not a library of projects to go do. It's really focused on traffic safety culture and changing those behaviors to help us reach our goal of target zero. It'll have 1, 3, and 5-year goals, uses a safe system approach at its heart, but the key on this is that it focuses on internal and external collaboration and partnerships to help us reach these goals. We'll build this plan. We've had public workshops. We did one down here in Lee County, and we're in the process of the writing part of it now. We hope to have it done by the end of the summer. And just as we did with our safety action plan to the MPO, we'll provide this out to everybody else so that they can take pieces of it and incorporate into your local plans at the local level. These are our main objectives and our main strategies on how we're doing this. We shared these with all of the workshops, both internal and external, and everybody agreed that these are sound. And we collected a bunch of action items from people across the district to see how can we do these effectively and how can we get there. A lot of great ideas came in, and we will hope to have all of those reflected in our plan. Now we talk about plans. So I mentioned the safety action plan. This is just a snapshot of what we did and provided for Lee County. In there, we did identify the high injury network on the state system. And the numbers on the side there show that 31% of all crashes and 40% of fatal and serious injury crashes occur on the state system. So that's why we felt that it was important for us to be able to take the effort to do a dedicated look at the state system roadways and then provide that to the MPO so it would really magnify what they were able to do with the funding they had for their own plan. This shows you the high injury network, and I'm not going to ask you to read the eye test up there, but again, there's a copy of this is with the MPO. Our consultants who prepared this plan for us last year when it was completed, we went through all of the MPO committees, and I think they may have presented here too, I'm not sure, but it was provided to the MPO, and so hopefully it was a great use to them in their plan. Now this is a snapshot at District 1 of what we're doing with our own engineering efforts and our Highway Safety Improvement Plan funding. We have 70 projects right now in our current 5-year work program across all 12 counties, and these 70 projects are strictly safety projects. 100% funded with our federal safety funds, and they do different things like you see there. $44 million of our 5-year road program are on 18 projects here in Lee County alone. This shows you the numbers that are going on in Lee County. We had an increase in fatalities, but a drop in serious injuries. In other counties, it was the other way around. So why is that happening here in Lee County instead of the way it is in other places? We're not exactly sure. That's part of what behavioral analysis hopefully will address. But what we've seen across our district is by taking our funding and prioritizing it on our top 20 fatal and serious injury corridors across the district, we have made an improvement, a positive improvement. Right now, we have $21 million invested over 10 projects in the last 5 years, and $34 million on 15 projects for the next 5 years, just on our top 20 corridors across the district. And we're seeing a reduction of over 100 fatal and serious injury crashes on those corridors. So that represents a potential 112 lives saved just on those areas due to these projects. So I'll take any questions you may have before I hand it over to Ron.
Just the nature, what kind of projects you talking about in our district?
I'm sorry?
What type of projects?
Oh. Basically, what you see here in the gray box, it's projects like this. Lighting, median modifications. We're doing a lot of median modifications. That's what's going on State Road 82 out there, where we're closing off a lot of medians, full open medians, and making them directional so that we reduce the number of conflict points and reduce the decision points that drivers have to make. Signal timing changes, new signals, pedestrian crosswalks, PHBs, RFBs, mid-block crosswalks, a lot of different things. Depends on where it is. We've got a series of projects that we're looking on State Road 80 right out here, between here and the interstate, that's more pedestrian focused because of the high number of pedestrian crashes in that region.
Any other questions? Yes, sir.
I have two quick ones. Number one, did the data set capture the age group of the crashes that have happened anywhere out there that we can look at?
In most cases, yes. We have to go in and look at the individual crash reports. That is something that we can look at. We do see that, I don't know what the exact specifics are for Lee County, but younger drivers do represent a disproportionately high percentage of crashes across the district. So that is something that we do see. But some of the higher levels of fatalities and serious injuries are more of the elderly population.
And that leads me, thank you, to my second question. Has there been any conversation, because this screams of having this implemented at the public school level and private and charter for driver's education? Because I would love to see this chair board as they get, because you can't legislate, as you said, you can't legislate behavior, but this would be great to impact.
I'm glad you asked that. Unfortunately, the driver's licensing and all that is not under FDOT. That's actually under the Department of Highway Safety and Motor Vehicles for driver's licensing and training and all that. But I'm on the statewide Teen Safe Driver Coalition, and the coalition is working, has been working for the last couple of years on some legislative priorities and educational priorities, and we are finished. We're like at the 99.98% level of complete on a model driver's ed curriculum, and that's being turned over to the Department of Education this summer for approval. And to my understanding at our last coalition meeting is that the legislative session this session was approving a bill that was going to require a driver's education for all new driver's licenses. Now, that's not the traditional driver's ed the way we all remember it growing up, but it does. Right now, all they have to do is do the TELC test online and then go take the exam. It does away with that, and it requires this 80-hour curriculum. And that curriculum is this curriculum that we've developed in the coalition. So it's a huge step in the right direction. Could be a step in future years to bringing it back into the high schools the way the more traditional approach was.
Outstanding. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Commissioner.
So one of the items that in my district on San Carlos Boulevard, it's not listed in these subjects here for safety, but there's some concrete curb makes you zigzag in the middle of the straight road that's almost unanimously disliked by all the residents in my district traveling through there that seems to be disruptive. I don't know the benefit of inserting those, but when you look at the amount of rubber and scrapes on the concrete, people are hitting them often as they pass through there. I'm concerned about those. What's the benefit of that?
The benefit is instead of dead people on the roads, we have rubber on the roads. The chicanes are there to slow people down. That is one of our higher crash corridors, fatal and serious injury crash corridors in the district. And the only way that we can get people to slow down in that area was to put the chicanes in there. That helps get them to slow down. It also prevents some of the cross left turn traffics where you reduce some of the right angle crash opportunities. So that's really the biggest thing. It was all to get people to slow down in that area. And when you have restricted right of way to work with, you have to be a little more creative in order to do that. Sometimes it's through the use of speed tables. Sometimes it's through the use of chicanes. So there's in that area, the analysis is determined that the chicaning would be the most effective way to slow people down.
Well, when you guys modified the McGregor corridor, by the Cape Coral Bridge, I know there's public input and the redesign and all the entrances and exits and median upgrades. There was a lot of public input that helped with that design and process and feedback of residents to kind of buy into that. And I think that's a major upgrade. I mean, I pass that every day. This particular item, was this something that public had input on or any notification of?
Oh, yeah. It went through the full standard public meeting and public workshop process. There were at least 2 down there in past years, and so it was brought to the public, a lot, and they got a lot of input on it and answered a lot of people's questions and during the process. And there were some minor design modifications made as a result of that public input. Okay. Sometimes like where we make the openings.
Diana's next.
In regard to the same item, even though it's not the city of Fort Myers, this came in front of the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Board for the city, and I think that speed reduction measures is something that we have to do, and that's kind of how you influence behavior. I think on this particular item is like as you approach those reductions, the speed limit was still way too fast. So, I mean, not that the signs with the reduction of the speed will stop people from going fast, because obviously you guys have to take other measures, but maybe that's something that as you approach those speed reduction measures, looking at the speed limits, because that was the concern that was brought up to us.
The posted speed limit is going to change. I'm not exactly sure where, geographically, but they do it once all the treatments are in place.
Okay.
Because we can't just arbitrarily lower the posted speed if there's nothing there to make them slow down other than a different number on a sign. So that's another reason why we put these out there, is to create that friction that will help them physically slow down to get to where we want them to be.
Mr. Kilray?
Just a clarification on the data you originally presented. If I interpreted it correctly, I think that you said that you analyzed all of the serious injuries, and of those, most of those are on the state highways, and basically the locals were less of serious injuries. I'm surprised a little bit by that number, because if you think about it, the frequency of travel on those roadways that are local has to be orders of magnitude greater than the state highways. So just from a miles traveled standpoint, am I interpreting data correctly, or am I misreading it?
Now, I don't have the data set right in front of me to be able to give you 100% accuracy on this, but my understanding is that 31% of the total crashes in the county occurred on the state system. So there's still 70% of the crashes are off of our system, which would count towards what you're pointing at. But then 40% of the fatal and serious injury crashes are on the state system, and that's typically because that includes the higher speed roadways.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Mr. Chair, I was going to make a comment. Commissioner, the treatment that you saw in San Carlos, right, what we see typically is when we introduce new treatments like that, it's a very innovative treatment that we put out there because of the space restrictions. It's going to take a little bit for drivers to get used to it. But when you introduce speed reduction measures like that, it makes a tremendous difference in reduction of crashes. We'll take a look at the approach and the transition going into that particular area and see if we need to make any adjustments to get people to slow down a little bit. So we'll go back and look at that. But, we've done similar treatment on Cortez Road in Manatee County, and we've seen tremendous decrease in crashes as it relates to serious injury and fatal crashes. So let's give it some time and get people adjusted to it. And the good thing is we are protecting people's lives, right? So minor nicks and bumps, something that we can live with. We just want to make sure that people walk away from crashes if something happens, right? So ask your constituents to be a little bit more patient with us, as they get used to it.
There's a way to smooth out those transitions, like you say,
Yeah.
prepare them for what appears to be something you're avoiding as you drive by.
Yeah.
Now, the way it's such a unique item in Lee County. It's not like you see it in multiple travel paths. So I think it surprises a lot of people to see something that unique in
Yeah.
travel patterns. And we all want safety. I drive a lot in my business, and that's just a relatively unique thing. And everywhere I go, people say, "Why did I put that there?" So you're making me unpopular with my
I'm kidding, but I'm kidding here. We'll continue to using your name, Commissioner, if you like, So, so the other point, I want to make, the key point that we are trying to make in this presentation is the approach that the district is taking is this is like you said, Commissioner, it's a problem not only on the state and the local facilities. We are focusing on the state, but if we don't work together and influence the behavior by introducing the policies and the education that's needed for our younger generation, like you said, Commissioner, we're not going to make a difference. So that's why we are really focusing on getting engaged in the community, getting everybody on board, and influencing the behavior in addition to the engineering solutions we're looking at. So thank you for your attention.
Thank you.
And I appreciate what LK said about the timing too. That project is still under construction, and what we remind people of is it may look like it's done, but it's not really done, and there's some of the fine tuning touches are what will help with a lot of that recognition, because now when they see the barrels and it's like, oh yeah, it's kind of freaky. I mean, we all understand that, but once it's really done, then it should be a lot more intuitive for people to navigate. Like the DDIs, I know are one thing that kind of freak people out, but once they're really done, they're so intuitive to go through. The first time I ever went through one, I didn't even realize I'd gone through it until I was through it, because it was just so intuitive. Just follow the sign, and there you were. And so that's kind of what we're looking for this one as well.
We have a Publix nearby and a lot of senior citizens in that area, and they kind of autopilot drive to Publix. They're just not used to anything changing in their world as they.
And there could be some more fine tuning after it's completed too, as we notice certain things that might be, well, maybe we need to tweak this, some signage or pavement markings or something like that as well.
Thank you.
The last thing I'll leave, this QR code up here will take you to our website. We have a lot of resources and news items and articles available there. That's a public-facing website. And I left a few copies of our latest edition of our newsletter over there on the counter. Please take those as well.
And Mr. Chair, one thing.
Sure.
This overlaps with the Comprehensive Safety Action Plan. I mean, there's so much information that then you guys could apply, because it addresses, the methodology was phenomenal. It was great. But is AI going to be used in any of your solutions?
I couldn't tell you that right now. I know personally, I'm a historian by personal training, and I'm not a big fan of AI when it comes to certain things, but I do understand that there are certain applications where it could provide some benefit.
Right.
So, but I wouldn't be able to tell you definitively
I'm in the same,
right now. Yeah.
I'm in the same part. AI give us suggestions, but humans make the
Yes.
decision. Thank you very much. Great presentation.
Any other questions or comments at the board level?
Up, Matt, to our part of it, and then we have one public comment as well. Which one's yours here? 6A.
Thanks, everyone, for the opportunity to present, and thank you so much to Keith and all the folks at D1 who laid a great foundation for what the MPO sought to accomplish with our Safety Action Plan study. The MPO took an advantageous measure in going after federal funds, securing them to complete a Safety Action Plan study. And it was very fortuitous timing, just at the tail end of what FDOT had done. So we wanted to build upon this. And you can almost view this study as a supplement to FDOT's work. We sought to build upon the safety findings, not only on FDOT roads, but also taking a look at what is going on county roads and municipal roads as well. So the purpose of today's presentation is to give an overview of all the work that was done on this study. We started April of last year, and a whole year brings us around to now, where we're at the tail end of this study, looking for approval, most importantly to enable Lee County DOT as well as any local municipalities to submit grant applications for funding of their own, whether they want to do a supplemental safety action plan or even go after demonstration projects that touch on those behavioral aspects that Keith was talking about, or even going after implementation funds to actually construct some of the ideas we came up with during this study. The impetus of this paradigm of thinking that both Keith and the MPO is presenting here is the fact that fatal and incapacitating injury crashes are attracting much more of our attention than they used to. As you can see, based on the crash costs published by FDOT, one crash that doesn't result in an injury, you would need about 1,400 of those crashes to equal the weight of a fatal crash, and more than 100 of those crashes to equal the weight of an incapacitating crash. So that's why we're trying to draw all of our attention to where these crashes are occurring. And not only where these crashes are occurring, but what roadways have those geometric features that tend to make roads prone to these types of crashes. And so we did a network analysis identifying various roadways in red that suffer from vehicle-vehicle crashes, roadways in blue that suffer from bike vehicle crashes, and roadways in orange that suffer from pedestrian vehicle crashes. We also identified intersections as part of this study and commensurate improvements to go along with that. I also wanted to touch on our engagement effort for this study. We had an online survey that was open for about 9 months just to allow for comment from the public on our study. Some sample comments. There was this huge, time and time again, people banging away at the idea that we need more enforcement. This gets at the heart of the fact that there's a behavioral issue, and so we need to bring funds to bear on this. And unfortunately, a lot of it rolls up to jurisdictions that are above us, but there is certainly a need for increased enforcement. An astounding 31% personally impacted by a serious crash, and this is something we're working with District 1 to bring that number down. And we want to get our municipal partners involved on getting it down on local roads. We also had a question, not only as part of this online survey, but for our various public meetings and stakeholder meetings, getting people to think, what are we willing to sacrifice for safer roads? And we had things like slower traffic, lane repurposing efforts, lower speed limits, enforcement, once again off the charts. And we want people to think in this paradigm. Think of what can they be doing? This goes back to personal responsibility. What can they be doing to make our roads safer? And that all goes home with us at the end of the day. What can we be doing? What safer driving techniques, what defensive driving techniques can we all make to make our roads safer? We also held 2 public meetings, one in June and one in December, to get people's feedback. I think it was very eye-opening to get people to share their own stories on how serious injury crashes have affected them. Diana, for one, shared her story, and we have so many other examples of people sharing their stories of how serious injury crashes have affected them. We also went around to bike shops to share flyers for upcoming events, and also to really pitch the idea of people taking the survey, getting their voices heard. So there was a lot of engagement leading up to not only hard, constructed crash countermeasure recommendations, but the behavioral aspects that we want to affect through this study. And this rolls all back to the safe system approach. We have safe road users, safe vehicles, safe speeds, safe roads, and post-crash care. The old way of thinking was just focusing on safer roads, but we know based on research it takes all 5 components to make a safer road system. Going to the infrastructure that we're proposing, there were emphasis areas based on the crash data of the fact that we need better speed management, safer facilities for pedestrians and cyclists. Those are our vulnerable road users. They're highly exposed in the event of a crash. Intersection emphasis areas as well. So think about your T-bone collisions, especially with left turn conflicts. Are there any left turns that we can, if we need to increase the capacity, still revise signal timings to allow for protected left turns only, so you don't have to deal with oncoming through traffic. Reducing those left turn conflicts, and Keith talked a little bit about that, reducing the conflict areas, adding medians, making conflict points right in, right out only, because left turn crashes tend to be more serious in nature. And then also road departure crashes, thinking about our more rural communities, thinking about better delineation along those roads, especially as you're approaching a curve. So we've touched on so many things regarding this study, and I'm trying to make this a bird's eye view. But going straight to the funding opportunities, there's a lot of funding pots that are still available. We encourage everyone to continue to work with District 1, but we see this, especially now, especially these 2 last months coming up to the June 26th funding deadline for Safe Streets for All. We're looking to arm our municipal partners with information to go after these planning and implementation grants, because this is what's most timely at this point. And we've already met with our municipal partners in Lee County DOT through stakeholder meetings, technical advisory committee meetings. So there's 2 types of grants to go after. Planning and demonstration, sure, we certainly want our municipal partners to pursue their own efforts, as well as Lee County DOT. Lee County DOT voiced to us the fact that they are going after a planning and demonstration grant project to use near-miss video analytics. Laura, that actually touches on what you had mentioned earlier with the use of AI. So there is software out there you can plug into cameras at intersections, actually track near miss or near collision moments, and that helps the county identify root causes for crashes and quick fixes. But we have a focus on actually getting stuff built, because we have already done the planning and demonstration activities that accompany the safety action plan. So through a series of meetings, we have let municipal partners know what they can do to construct projects of their own. And we've actually asked our municipal partners to share with us their capital improvement programs. And we've helped them to identify various projects, or they've even identified on their own what projects that they have in their pipeline that could be potentially funded through this Safe Streets and Roads for All funding program, which is really exciting. We'd love to see a study that results in getting stuff built. Just to name a few municipalities: Cape Coral, Fort Myers Beach, Sanibel, Bonita Springs, they all have potential projects that could be funded through this grant program, whose deadline is June 26th. And all these potential projects are covered in the Safety Action Plan deliverable. But just to touch on the grant program, so we have these various phases. Action plan all the way on the left, we've already developed that, and the MPO has. And so there's supplemental and demonstration activities that can be done. But really, having a safety action plan under your belt allows us to run forward and to allow actually great opportunity for funds to fund design, construction, and that's what we want to see. So we've been talking with our municipal partners, and they know the resources that they have at their disposal to chase after funding opportunities of their own. As far as what else is in the safety action plan, we have a summary of outreach. We have all our crash and safety analysis that was performed. We have an implementation plan that's both county-wide systemic improvements as well as location-specific, whether segment or intersection improvements that are proposed. Our proposed projects are implementation matrix to say what's short-term, long-term. And then as part of the federal process, the MPO is going to be moving forward to track outcomes. So are these constructed projects, are these behavioral aspects that we're targeting actually reducing fatal serious injury crashes? So they're going to have a dashboard that they look at on an annual basis to actually see how things are going. And this is a living document. What needs to be tweaked on an ongoing basis? What approaches need to be have a second look taken at them? We also have next steps, very much what I previously discussed for chasing after funding resources. And then also documented in that safety action plan will be the public comments and our responses. Our big takeaways, potential demonstration projects, that's kind of the phase one of the federal grant program. Those are opportunities that should be explored, but we also recommend implementation funding be pursued. The final report provides a roadmap for everyone to apply for design and construction funds, so we've helped to identify projects and provided guidance to chase after those funds. When applying, we encourage our municipal and county partner to not limit their application to only one location. Think systemically. You can bundle a whole bunch of different locations off of one key theme, such as an ADA transition plan, signal retiming efforts. Just pick a project or a group of projects that best suits the safety need locally. And then we'll pick the most appropriate funding source. We've talked about all the various funding sources. And then multi-jurisdictional projects are the most successful. So if there's a road that is on a boundary between jurisdictions, whether it be a municipal jurisdiction or municipal Lee County DOT jurisdiction, grant applications where multiple partners are involved tend to be the most successful. So we're looking forward to getting these improvements built, and we will take any questions regarding our safety action plan.
Joe?
Just how much money is available in the grant program? What is the process for applying? Is it done through the county or municipalities do it directly? And then what is the selection process?
Well, there's a whole bunch of different grant programs, but the one that we're having a lot of focus on right now is the Safe Streets and Roads for All federal implementation grant program to actually get things built. You see a ceiling of about $20 million of award, provided that, and this is at any level of award, there either needs to be a municipality or Lee County DOT match of 20% towards those funds. You are more likely to receive an award for grant funding if you are under a $10 million ask. And the process of applying is fairly simple. There's application packages you can put together. When putting an application package together, it's important to tell the story. Tell the story of what fatal and serious injury crashes have occurred on the roadways that you're looking to improve, and directly tie the improvements that you're putting forward to how they will address those crashes. There needs to be a huge link to crash causality and the improvements that you're providing. It's not meant to be a vehicle, say, for a road resurfacing project. Really, the purpose and need of the project has to be focused on reducing fatal and serious injury crashes.
How new is the funding source on this? Is it recent federal funding? Will it be available in the future? And I guess that's an open question, but do you have any perspective on that?
Yeah, this program has been around since fiscal year 2022. So it's and the county MPOs use full benefit of that program. There is some question, especially with new administration changes at the federal level, how long it will be around. It remains to be seen. Based on some talks through the grapevine, we've heard that it still may be tenable for next year, which is great news. But any funds that are obligated will remain there. So if you're awarded, the funding is going to be there. Another important thing I forgot to note, when getting implementation grant awards, the project needs to be complete within a 5-year window. So looking forward, that's kind of a deadline that you have to look at.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair?
No,
Sorry.
go ahead.
Sure.
Sorry, if I may, I can add on to the response that was provided
To the Commissioner's question. So this particular program is funded through the IIJA, which is the Infrastructure Act that was passed by the Congress back in 2022. That particular bill or that particular act is going to expire in 2026. So this program is going to be there till 2026, and like what he said, any projects that were already awarded will stay, but what new funding is all going to be dependent on the new authorization that's going to come, which conversations have begun just now. So.
Thank you. Very true.
Any other questions or comments from the board? Ms. Carr?
Matthew, again, I love this study. It was so thorough and so wonderful. And you cover, intersections, demographics, age, time of day, really. And then the 5 system fits into your comprehensive. So there's site, system, and then systematic. And you sort of say, in the past we thought these crashes were random, but there's a regularity to the randomness.
Yes.
And you kind of identify, it's like Silence of the Lamb moment, But really fabulous, and I'm going to drop it off at City Hall and see if maybe our neighbors might have a project that we could deal with. But thank you.
Absolutely, and my heart is warmed by the fact that you're looking to act upon it. That's what this is all about. This is just, we're doing the easy lift here, right? We're just identifying what projects you can go after. The bulk of the work is, once we produce this plan, to say, okay, these studies, we're going to go after them, we're going to fund them, because making our communities more livable, safe. That's going to increase the attractiveness of our town. That's going to incentivize economic development. It's all tied together.
Absolutely. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions or comments from the board? Public comment, Mr. Felder.
Derek Felder for the record. I provided all of you in front of you a 3-page sheet here. These are parts from the 200-page document. So I reviewed that document. I don't know if everyone's had a chance to look at it or not, but there's a lot in there. It's a great plan. There's a lot in there. I just wanted to pull these 3 pages out of particular projects that can be done. These are the projects that are relatively cheap, easy, quick things. Signal timing, roadside rumble strips, a couple $1,000s here, $10,000. It's not the $1 million projects for a whole new signals at intersections or multi-million dollars to add a roundabout someplace. These items listed on this page are the relatively cheap things that can be done quickly and easy. So I just wanted to pull these out and share them with you so you can visually see some of the easy items that can be done. One of the columns shows the percentage of the crash reduction, the cost of them, and then the timeline that they particularly take. So most of them are in the short category. So I just wanted to provide this for you. So thank you.
Great, thank you. Good information, Derek. Any other public comments? Seeing none, any further discussion at the board? We need a motion to approve this.
Motion to approve.
Any further discussion? Any objection to the motion? Seeing none, the motion is carried unanimously.
And Mr. Chair, I'd like to echo our commentary from the public. I love the page on the signs and the costs that were associated and the impact. So it's very, very helpful. Again, great work.
Thank you, Laura. That brings us to agenda item 7, the transit safety performance targets. Ron?
I just wanted to give you a background to this. So the federal statutes is a requirement out there that all MPOs set annual transit safety targets for the metropolitan areas. They also have an option, instead of setting their own targets, they can actually support the targets that are set and adopted by a public transit agency in the metropolitan area. And since 2021, the LEAD MPO has been supporting LEAD trend targets by adopting resolutions of support. These are the targets for calendar year 2024, and I just wanted to show that there are different targets for each of the performance measures, which includes total fatalities, the fatality rate, total injuries, injury rate, system reliability, then total safety events, and safety event rate per 100,000 miles. And they all actually apply to either the fixed route buses or the ADA paratransit vans. So how did we do in 2024 at the end of December 2024? So these tables basically show whether we met the targets or not. So each of these tables, on the first column, it shows the actual target, and in the second column, it shows what was the number at the end of the year. So as you can see, we met the total fatality targets, the fatality rate per 100,000 miles, we met that, but when it came to the total injuries for ADA paratransit, that was not met. And the same applies to the injury rate. As far as the system reliability is concerned, both modes of service, whether fixed route or paratransit, they were not able to meet the targets. The same applies for total safety events for the paratransit and also the rate for safety events. That was not met. Now, these are some of the statistics for over the last 5 years. Total injuries, the blue, again, the fixed route, the orange, the paratransit. So when it comes to the injuries for the fixed route, it has been dropping. But when you look at the breakdown calls, mechanical breakdown calls, the numbers have been rising. And the safety events related to your paratransit services also kind of went up. Revenue miles are kind of stagnant. It's flat. And now this brings us to our 2025 safety targets. And so the action in front of you is to adopt a resolution supporting lead trends. That should be 2025 targets, not 2026 targets.
Questions or comments?
Motion to approve.
Any public comments on this agenda item? Seeing none, any objection to the motion approving Resolution 25-20? Seeing none, the motion is approved unanimously. That brings us to agenda item 8, the presentation on the Congestion Management Multimodal Planning Initiative.
So I think, yes, Michelle with FDOT is going to make this presentation.
Good morning. My name is Michelle Pronto. I'm the District Transit Administrator. Today I'm going to be talking to you about our Congestion Management Multimodal Planning Initiative. The initiative was thought of by our District Secretary, L.K. Nandum, about 6 years ago, and he came to the Transit Administrator in the role of a planning effort because he felt like a lot of movement could be made in public transportation initially, with a further thought of making those same types of planning movements throughout all of our modes, including aviation, rail, seaport, and freight. As with any good initiative, we started with a strategic plan. We have a vision and a mission. We have goals, and we follow those closely, and we come back to them annually to make sure that we have stayed on target with where we want to be at the department and where we want our roadway network to be within our communities. Our vision here, you can tell by the bolded words, talks about various modes of transportation. Again, initially, we started out really focusing on transit, so that used to say public transportation. Today, though, as a group, we are focused on all of our modes of transportation, trying to find efficiencies, trying to reduce congestion, and trying to make for a better roadway network within our communities through our various modes. Don't be scared by the graph. I know it's a lot. What I want you to focus on, and what many people often forget, is how much effort it takes in the planning world to come to the oval. That's the blue oval on the right-hand side that says Adopted Work Program. It's where you want your project. That's where you get things done. How do you get there? You work with your MPOs. Those are your green circles. We talked a little bit today about the UPWP. You often hear about the Long Range Transportation Plan. You hear all the time, today included, about your TIP. And on the far right-hand side is that orange triangle, and those are the modal plans. Sometimes our local communities aren't aware that a mode like transit has a transit development plan. A mode like freight has a freight plan. And a mode like aviation has an airport master plan. All of those plans should be incorporated into everything that your community is doing and that the MPO is doing. And this MPO particularly does a wonderful job bringing those different modes in, ensuring that we are looking at everything we can to address any type of congestion. You all know LK well, I'm sure, as well as I do at least. And he's an innovator and he's a thinker, and he likes to ensure that things are being done within his district and within his state to enhance what might be happening on our roadways. So one of the things that he quoted very long time ago was for us as a group, the Congestion Management Multimodal Group, Our acronym is C3MP, top right. He said, think outside the box for practical solutions without financial limitations. So as a tenured DOT employee, I thought, I've always worked inside of a budget. How in the world could I not work inside of a budget? But this has been able to open up our minds and been able to create what I call is the think tank of how do we get to solutions? What can we do next? And if we can't afford it, we just start peeling it away and get down to what we can afford. So here's some of our goals, or I'm sorry, here are all of our goals. I'll talk a little bit about some of these. I want to bring you to goal number 6, which is incorporate technology. You're going to hear me speak to that in a little bit. I'm probably the less technology person anyone could ever have assigned, but I seem to do well here. Specifically, we have worked with Letran with the department's FRAME project, Letran's Transit Signal Priority Project, and having all of those things talk to one another, allowing that bus to make it through a green light. And the benefit is if you're behind the bus, you get to go too, right? So that allows for some efficiency for our public transportation system. It allows us to collect data. The other thing that I want to point out is item 1, develop relationships with MPOs. Again, because I've been at the DOT for a long time, and I knew our MPO partners because I've been in an external partner role for most of my career. I didn't know it at the time, but this piece has been the most enlightening piece. I already had this developed relationship with the MPO. I called Don and said, hey, how would you like another meeting with the DOT? And he said, sure. And so we developed quarterly meetings where it's the department, the MPO, and we have one with our transit agency and a separate one with our airports. And we like to have what I call informal conversations where ideas can be developed without financial limitations and things can be thought of and talked about without any kind of formal agreement to it, without a level of commitment to just try to work through the solution. The develop relationships part has been the biggest success of this initiative. I have always realized that without your partnerships in your community, that you will not get anything done. However, this level of relationship building and relationship partnering has really enhanced what we've been able to do for not a lot of money. I often get asked, is your initiative funded? No, it is not funded. We're just an idea maker and we try to get things done. LK is very passionate about this initiative, so passionate that when we started 6 years ago, he came in person. You know, he's a bit busy person, but he came in person and met with all of our transit directors, later met with all of our aviation directors to allow them to share his passion for what he would like to see through this planning initiative, and to see, again, what type of change can we make when we come back to a planning element to ensure our roadway network is being built correctly. Some of our successes, I won't go through all of these, and you're going to hear me in my next presentation talk about that last one. The State Road 789 project in Sarasota County, that's our Ringling Bridge. It's that bridge that goes from downtown Sarasota all the way over to St. Armand Circle. It's a beautiful bridge. We were doing some work in downtown Sarasota. It's a very large roundabout, hence creating a lot of congestion during construction. And the city and the county came to the department and said, please think of a solution. LK thought of a solution of putting a bus over that bridge, and so that's what we did. We found money to do that. That was probably the most costly thing that we've done to date, and that happened about 5 years ago. And only because transit is very expensive to operate. Huge success. The people, the residents, the visitors love that bus. It is full all the time, and they really enjoy riding it. However, the most interesting part to this story is while we were doing that, we found 3 other FDOT projects that were going on at the same time. In the end, we were able to create, without building anything new, a dedicated bike lane, a dedicated bus lane, and 2 travel lanes from downtown Sarasota, almost at that roundabout area, up and over this bridge, the John Ringling Bridge. it will go over one more bridge, the Little Ringling Bridge, almost making it to St. Armand Circle, again with a dedicated bike lane, a dedicated bus lane, 2 travel lanes without any construction. We did some restriping, cost about $50,000. So those are the types of things that he meant when he said, think of the solution without your financial limitations. The other piece that I want to point out here that I do love to talk about is that transit safety study pilot project. So you've heard from 2 former presentations, our own Keith Robbins and then the MPO's consultant, Matthew, about crashes and high injury crashes, fatal crashes. How can we change that? How can we stop those crashes from happening? It is through things like a safety culture. It's also through things like this really great pilot study that we did. The person who oversees that in our district, his name is John Kubicki. Perhaps you know him. And he came to the C3MP group and asked and stated, I think I can help create a safer haven in your transit element. And I said, okay, well, how? And so it's the same methodology, it's the same type of data that we use when we establish our high injury network and when we establish what we call our top 20. Except it looks at bike ped move it at transit stops. So do we need to add more lighting? Do we need to add a shelter? Do we need to add a little bit of concrete to push that, bus bench away from the road a little bit more? So it's been a great project. We piloted it in Manatee County, found its success, and now we are doing it not only in Lee County, but 3 other counties throughout our district. That is the end of this presentation. Tell me or what comments you have or what questions you have. Oh, but yet, hold on. I love my safety slide. It's our move over law. Everyone's familiar with it, right? Move over, because when you see flashing lights, you should. This law changed about 1.5 years ago, and it's move over for anybody. Just remember that the person on that side of that road could be you or your loved one. So move over and create a safe space for them. Now, I'll take all comments and questions.
Any questions or comments for Michelle? Ms. Carr.
Thank you. Again, fabulous presentation. Love the ideas. It's wonderful. And it overlaps with what Ron was saying, because, in the upper corner of your slides, it was rethink, reinitiate, revitalize, and it was these, and that's what you want to do. You want to rethink, reinitiate, and then revitalize. And it's fabulous. Although the acronyms you guys come up with, I was like, CPO, 3PO.
I like that better.
And I did come up with this acronym as a team. It was a team effort.
No, it's great, but.
It's not just you.
Thank you very much.
Any
Motion
public
to.
comments on this initiative? Seeing none, you're up again, Michelle.
Yes, you will be making a presentation on AAM. There's I think we sent out before to you, there'll be some workshops this summer in July, one in the morning for staff and then one in the afternoon for elected officials. So I encourage you to get on there and register.
Thank you, Don.
Space is limited.
Don't worry about the space. We just want you there. Good morning again. So today, and in this presentation, I'm going to talk to you about advanced air mobility. You heard in my prior presentation with my C3MP role, the transit administrator, and I was asked to be part of the C3MP team. That team is multimodal, which includes aviation, which is why I'm here today to talk to you a little bit about what's going on in our world of aviation. Advanced air mobility, if you haven't heard about it, keep your ears open. You're going to learn a little bit today. This is very high level. Our acronym for it, AAM, a little easier than C3MP. So these are aircraft that sort of kind of look like a helicopter. They definitely take off and land like a helicopter, and we call that electric vertical takeoff and landing, an even clunkier acronym, eVTOL. Okay, so we have AAM and eVTOL. Those are your aircraft or what it could look like. And oftentimes people think, well, isn't that kind of just like a big drone? Not really. So your drones are definitely a lot smaller. They are remote controlled. They are unmanned, and they fly at about 400 feet. Our eVTOL aircraft is much larger. It has a pilot with a license that is under FAA guidelines. I'm sorry, the Federal Aviation Administration guidelines. And they fly between 1,000 and 3,000 feet. So those are some major differences. So don't be confused that these eVTOL aircraft are like a drone. They're really not. What kind of infrastructure will you need? Certainly an airport is a good one because they have the space for it and they have some of the infrastructure for it, or a heliport. What will be coming as AAM grows, or new to us and new to you, are vertiports, and those will be specific to our eVTOL aircraft. Why are we talking about this? What is happening, right, with flying things in the air that are not airplanes or just different aircraft? Florida has been recognized as the national leader in our AAM world. The department is honoring that and has been implementing a very exhaustive program to try to set this foundation of AAM and have others follow what Florida will do. We are not doing this in a silo. We are side by side with our Federal Aviation Administration. As they're making guidelines and rules, we are also following those guidelines and rules in a published document that we have and in published information that we have. Why did Florida come to the top? It's because that's what our airport network looks like. So it's a lot, for one. It goes across our entire state, and they're pretty close together. So these new aircraft can't travel very far, but it makes for this great regional aspect of getting from one place to another very easier in Florida. Today we are in phase 2. We talk about in this slide where we're engaging the community, and you might be wondering, didn't you just tell me that FAA and DOT are the leaders? I said Florida was the leader, right? But it is our communities that will be leading this effort. So with the partnership between our communities, between the state and between the federal government, you will be seeing eVTOLs, advanced air mobility, maybe in your backyard, if it is Lee County that comes up and says that's what we want to do. But it will not be alone. It will be in full partnership. Across the top, you see all of the different agencies where we hold responsibilities in all kinds of areas. So reading that local government is there in the middle. And that is why we're here today to talk to you about our upcoming workshop, because the local government has the biggest part in what we will do moving forward, and where vertiports will be, what airports will take that on, where the aircraft will start from, where it will land, and how we will get around our state using our new aircraft. Again, I said it earlier, we have been following the Federal Aviation Administration closely, and we have developed this guidebook. That QR code, you could take out your phones now if you wanted to and scan that, and you could go to our resource page to find out a lot more information. You also have a 2-page document in your agenda packet with that same QR code. It will lead you here to this website. Once you're there on that website, you get to find out about our upcoming workshops. That's really why I'm here today, is to invite you, our elected officials, to our workshop being hosted right here in Lee County. They are being hosted throughout the state, so if you look at that date and think, oh, I wish I could go, but not on that date, it's okay. You have others to choose from. You just might have to drive a little bit. Our QR code is on the top of this. Again, it's in your agenda packet. If you just click there and sign up for your portion of the workshop, the beginning of the day is for planning staff. The end of the day is for our elected and appointed officials.
Any questions or comments? Go.
Just interesting that you set a ceiling of 1,000 to 3,000. Just wondering about air traffic control. I know that drones are somewhat less than that normally for a civilian drone. But basically, has that been thought through yet as to how that's going to interface with the current air traffic control systems that we have, or the absence of them?
Right, so the department and the state of Florida will rely on our Federal Aviation Administration to help guide that. They're the overseers of that, but I wonder if, Rohan, do you have any further information besides what I just said? Like, we're still in the works, right? So that is still being developed. It will be controlled. It can't not be controlled.
Okay, are these in use anywhere in the state right now?
Are they in use in the state? I think that's a no. They're in use globally, but not here in the state.
Mr. Chair, so the Tampa International Airport has some test flights that they're starting, but officially there hasn't been any use. So.
In past experience a few years ago, I actually ventured onto an oil platform with a very similar craft, but vertical reach on that was a little bit higher, so probably a little bit more powerful.
Any other questions or comments from the board? Any public comments on advanced air mobility?
Question, is the meetings open to the public at all that are upcoming about this?
Yes, all of it is open to the public. However, the first part of the day is meant for our planning community, so our cities and counties who have planning staff, but anybody can attend. The second half of the day is geared towards elected and appointed officials and what that role will look like in terms of AAM. But yes, you're welcome to attend.
Sit and watch it?
Sure.
If you Google Tampa Bay flying car, you can see one that was just over the Riverwalk a week ago.
Any other public comments? Seeing none, we'll move to item 10, review of the fiscal year 2630 TIP.
This will come back in final form at next month's meeting. I just was going to quickly go through, like we usually do a month ahead of time, what the changes were from what you've seen from the tentative work program earlier this year. So this is the 26 through 30. That was based on the priorities were from last June, and next month we'll have the priorities for next month for the new year of 2031. There's about $800 million in projects, about $30 million higher than last year. Within 5 years, the larger projects are $214 million for the State Road 31, State Road 80 to 78, which is the 6 laning with the bridge in there. There's also $93 million in resurfacing projects in there. This is more of a breakdown between the federal. There are obviously local in there, some of the match projects where there's either TRIP funds or things like that in there, and what is the state or what projects are 100% state. The one thing that is different than what you had seen before is carbon reduction funding was sent back from the governor to Washington, and these were the projects that were impacted: Cape Coral sidewalks, the Gator Circle sidewalks, Winkler Ave, it's a pathway or bike lanes, and the Andalusia sidewalk. We were trying to address that with what's been put back in the box, and then what comes up, it'll be shown in the priorities next year, but obviously we're trying to get those back in as soon as possible, and we'll be working with FDOT on that. Any questions or comments?
Questions, comments for Director Scott?
Yes, thank you. If you go back 2 slides, the 26, 27 state just because they haven't agreed on a budget, or why is there nothing for the state?
I think the way they identified that is there's obviously $34 million in state funds on the one above that. Okay. I think it means that there's not a project in there that's 100% state funded.
Thank you for the clarification.
Any other questions or comments?
If you go to that next slide, 3 of those are right there in our city. I might be late to the understanding of this, but there's some kind of selection process. So there's a lot going on in our city at those particular areas right now.
So I'm glad you asked that, because I went and researched. There's more that goes into this, but some of the issues are whether there was a big portion of that funding that was in there. The first one is you have more projects, bike ped projects, than any of the other jurisdictions. Then the second part is what funding were on there. So for Andalusia, for instance, 96% of it was carbon funding. So it didn't have hardly any other funds to be able to backfill that. Gator Circles, one of them was 1/2, and the other Gator was 1/3. Andalusia was 1/2, and Winkler project had 99% carbon reduction funds. So those were the largest impacted projects from there. Then there's some other issues that went along with it. The one that's the Cape Coral sidewalk project one had been one that started in 2014 and been impacted by the UEP. They're going to go back out and do I think like a survey in January. So that was one that was, because it was already being pushed out. So that was one of the other reasons it was.
The last, man, just follow. I wasn't following you. So you're saying there's an additional one that's been eliminated? The last statement you made.
The Cape Coral sidewalks. I meant the one at the top there.
Okay.
When I was talking about it, it's on 3 different roads.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Any other discussion or comments? Any public comments on this item? Seeing none, any public comments for items that were on the agenda, other than on the agenda?
So I have one letter to read into the record as well that was sent. I was expecting one other person, but I guess we're not getting that. This is from Marcia Ellis. Dear MPO, I'm writing in complete shock about the Lee County DOT even suggesting building an extension to State Road 82 without first making good on promises to widen the Alico mining corridor and make other safety provisions that protect the public. Residents living nearby and other road users have procedural grievance because they participate in good faith in meetings, submitted comments, or given assurances that are now being reneged on. This includes CMEX mine extension and the increased distances needed for dump trucks to accelerate and brake, as well as the size ratio differences affecting visibility and severity of crashes. The public demands transparency and disclosure for who is financially responsible for industry-related impacts to the roads, and an update to operational practices and enforcement with Sheriff's Office and FDOT. Many of these concerns are unique to this leg of Alico between Green Meadow and Airport Hall, which is undersized 2-lane road. Provisions simply must be given top priority. These known conditions are both correctable and preventable. This letter, in part and as whole, affirms and documents the MPO has been informed about this and has knowledge of dangerous conditions on Alico Road, as well as escalating deterioration of public safety. Backtracking and regging on Alico Road widening has recently met with accolades from the Board of County Commissioners and has been referred to in chambers and at workshops as cheaper and faster. Yet the newly released MPO safety plan places a value of $10 million on loss of life for every Lee County road fatality and similarly excessive severe injury. I ask, does shortchanging the public with cheaper, faster savings that increases the exposure of our tax dollars and will maim and cost lives worth it? By inaction, backtracking on Alico is a symptom of lack of will and the abandonment of both professional and elected duty bound to protect life, promote, and compel safety. The Notice of Dangerous Conditions, formally issued on May 5th to the Lee County, is not the first time such a citizen initiative action has been needed to address dangerous conditions on Alico Road. Along with neighbors in Wild Blue and the drivers from East Lee communities of Bellaterra, Verdana, The Place, etc., we are all far too intimate with ins and outs of precariously navigating dangerous roads conditions and do not accept the delay. I've felt firsthand the shroud of horror and grief that befalls communities suffering road fatalities and consoled grieving children in Lehigh Acres prior to the widening of State Road 82. To propose even for a single day, deadly 2-lane Alico connection is disrespect to those who have lost their lives and are continuing to lose their lives on State Road 82. Preserve the public trust by first prioritizing the widening of Alico's mining corridor and implementing promised safety provisions before escalating the dangerous conditions. Again, before commencing an unbuilt extension from Alico to State Road 82, fulfill the rational, reasonable assurances made to the people of Lee County and put a tourniquet on bleeding out of our people on the roads. Sincerely, Marcia Ellis.
Any other public comments for items not on the agenda? Seeing none, Lee Tran report.
Good morning, Kelly Fernandez, Deputy Director at Letran. I have a brief update for you this morning on Letran's services and projects. I'll start with our ridership. Our fixed route ridership for the second quarter of FY25 was approximately 500,000 riders, which is within 1% of the prior year. Our paratransit trips are averaging just under 600 passengers daily, which includes our transportation disadvantaged trips. On-demand services transported 15,434 passengers for the second quarter. 11,000 of those were in Bonita Springs. Just over 4,000 were in Lehigh Acres. In addition to that, our fixed route 515, the Lehigh Circulator, also saw over 6,000 passengers, totaling about 10,000 in that area. The 2025 Transit Development Plan continues on schedule for completion in September of 2025, with delivery to FDOT just after. We're currently reviewing proposed short-term system improvements and anticipate stakeholder interviews and public outreach will be conducted over the next few months. The ADA Bus Stop Improvements Project continues, which includes the design, engineering, and construction of 136 bus stops. The design for the first 50 stops is currently at 60%, and staff review is underway. CEI services for that project was advertised, and we received no proposals, so that will have to be put back out to re-advertise. That will push out the construction slightly, and that solicitation is expected to begin in fall of 25, with construction beginning by the first of the year. Our Lehigh Acres Park and Ride facility opened at the end of April and is servicing routes in that area as well as our MOD. Design for our electric bus project is currently in progress for the charging infrastructure. Our vendor, ChargePoint, has completed the fleet and energy route modeling and finalized the site plan in April. New bus stops and pull-offs associated with along State Road 865 are expected to be completed this summer. We have placed an order for those 2 shelters that will be installed in front of Margaritaville and also Crescent Beach Park. And our driver staffing levels remain adequate to provide our service. However, we remain proactive in our recruitment efforts to account for employee attrition. And that's what I have for you this morning, unless you have any questions.
Any questions or comments for Kelly? Rachel.
Thank you. So you did mention in your report that Mobility on Demand was servicing around 11,000 customers in Bonita Springs.
Mm-hmm.
I recently had the pleasure of interviewing our youth council. These are juniors in high school, and I asked them what their number one concerns were for the city of Cape Coral, and they said public transportation. Is there any plans to bring Mobility on Demand or Letran Ultra, that type of program, to Cape Coral, specifically to the northeast or northwest part of Cape Coral that doesn't have a bus station at all?
Sure, that's a great question. We've actually had discussions with the Cape Coral staff about extending that service into Cape Coral and in those areas exactly where you mentioned.
Perfect, thank you.
I have 2 questions. Number one, thank you for the information, Ms. Fernandez. Point 1, the passport, was the information, do you have any information to share about the passport program?
That I can share as far as how to get those services?
Oh, no, I'm just saying, was that captured in your statistics?
Oh, sure, yes, that's the that would be included in the paratransit services, so those are those door-to-door and curb-to-curb style trips.
All right, and then number 2, just on a personal note, because we sit in these meetings a lot, I want to say thank you, Letran, and thank you just for supporting the board. My mother she was a dialysis patient, and she's no longer with us, but in her terminal days, she was very appreciative of the staff, of the drivers, and just the community that it brings. So it's a very important process. I had firsthand experience of what they bring to our community. So thank you, and I wanted to share that for the record.
Thank you.
That's all, sir.
Thank you for that comment. Any other comments? Okay, FDOT, Mr. Secretary, anything else?
Mr. Chair, I do have one announcement to make before I turn it to Wayne. I've decided to leave the department. So I've been with the department over 20 years. Some of you have known me for years, and a lot of the folks who stayed back, you're new to the board and have seen me in the last year, right? I've been in this position for over 8 years. I think we together at the board and the department have accomplished a lot for the Lee County community, and you got a great staff. Your director and staff are great partners with the department. I just want to say it's been a pleasure and honor to serve this community, but I'll be definitely in touch as I get outside of the department. I'll be going into the private sector. My replacement is currently under advertisement. I think the ad closed on Wednesday, so I'm very confident the secretary is going to pick the right person for the job. So, with that, I'm going to turn it over to Wayne to provide department updates.
Well, I just want to say on behalf of the MPO and all the municipalities that make up the MPO, thank you for your many contributions over the years. We are very grateful. Wayne?
I don't know how to. No, Wayne Gaither, Florida Department of Transportation. Just general update on one of our big projects that we've had in the area. We've got work that was being done on the Pine Island Bridge. We have been able to get two-way traffic secured on the bridge. Construction is still obviously going on in the area, but the demolition of the old facility has recently started and will be continuing. So, good milestone for advancement on that project. Just wanted to share that with you.
Any questions, comments?
Just as a Pine Island community, I know we're very happy that happened, and the traffic on Burn Store is moving a lot better, and you can see it. Thank you.
Great to hear. There's a lot of work that was going into just sharing the information and making sure that we had shared our schedules with everyone on the advancement of that project.
Don, do you have any announcements?
Just the next meeting's on June 20th, and I'd like to thank working with LK for over these years as well. He's been a great partner with the MPO. Also want to thank the vice chair for stepping in at the last minute because the chair got stuck behind trying to get off the island with a truck that had flipped over. So,
it's a fast learn, isn't it?
Yes.
Any information or distribution items?
Oh.
Jennifer.
I just have a question, and I'm kind of new to MPO. I mean, been coming regularly, and Commissioner Hammond came to our city and presented at one of our clubs, our local clubs in Cape Coral, and he talked about the widening of Cape Coral Bridge. And I apologize if this was an old agenda item, but I'm wondering if there's a way we could, and I don't know if this is appropriate, Don, so, if we need to talk offline, that'd be fine. But is there a way that we could add that topic to one of our agendas in the future, and then in addition bring in maybe Laura Dodd from our city or someone to come in and talk about the widening of Cape Coral Parkway, because that's going to happen first. And after his presentation, I had several residents that reached out to me with concerns, legit ones, obviously, because, widening the road, we're going to go 3 lanes, still into 2 lanes to get over the bridge. So those, their concern is that bottleneck. So I'm just wondering if there's a way we could present on that so that the public understands, like the timing and
The status of it, I mean, it's up to the board, but yes,
Okay.
we could have the county come in and talk about where they're at on their design of the bridge, and then if you want to have Laura talk about what she's talking about.
Okay, so do I need to ask for,
Yeah, is there general concurrence with that request? Any objection?
I'd support it, sure.
you can
That's
do
sufficient,
better?
Yeah.
Just kidding.
That's fine.
Anything else for the good of the organization? We've come to the end of the agenda. A motion to adjourn? Second?
Second.
Any objection? We are adjourned.
Thank you.